Part 13. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 121. Time passed in the solemn atmosphere coming from the Blue Mountains. Wu Yu's Qishan Palace is almost one of the places with the strongest aura in the Bibo Mountains. However, he was not in Qishan Palace during these days, but next to Sun Wudao's former grave. Of course, this was also the place where spiritual energy erupted. The burst of spiritual energy from heaven and earth was washing his body all the time. Wu Yu sat cross-legged in the mountain forest, concentrating. "Uncle Sun, I wish I was here to accompany you." This old man is Wu Yu's biggest regret. During this period of time, he had already mastered the nascent yin-yang one-chi sword and the 9-dragon coiled pillar technique. The body fixation technique in the 72 changes is also becoming increasingly mature, and the success rate will be higher. Of course, he just followed the example of this magical method. The center of his cultivation is the inner Vajra Buddha and the great immortal technique. Among them, the progress of the inner Vajra Buddha will make the flesh and blood more solidified, so that the chi condensing pill can be quickly refined and the source of Dharma can be condensed. Without the second level of this indestructible body, the fastest way for him to condense his magic power is to absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and refine 1 or 2 chi condensing pills every once in a while. The chi condensing immortal root realm is mainly about absorbing spiritual energy, condensing the source of magic, and achieving magic power. Most people can only kill time without forging a physical body. Many people have been working hard to condense chi all their lives because their physical bodies are not strong enough and they don't have chi condensing pills in their hands. If everyone can still possess superb body refining techniques after condensing chi, maybe the speed of chi condensation in the entire world of immortality will increase. This is what Wu Yu guessed. But why, except for myself, does no one continue to practice? Of course, this is only the speed of the chi condensation realm, and it cannot be like this in the Jindan Dao realm. It is said that the golden elixir can only be tempered step by step. In cultivating the Tao, the higher you go, the more difficult it becomes. The ascetics are like crucian carp crossing the river, but most of them are drowned in the river. There are thousands of words in the inner Vajra Buddha scripture. Every time you recite it, your whole body is tortured. This process is quite unbearable. Only those with great perseverance cannot persevere. In this place with rich spiritual energy, Wu Yu recited the scriptures of the Inner Diamond Sutra over and over again. Every time a word is read, the words turn into golden blades and wreak havoc in the body. The sharp words tore, cut, and destroyed the internal organs, muscles, bones, flesh, and blood. Every time you recite Inner Vajra Buddha, the Inner Vajra Buddha in your body will grow taller and stronger. The Inner Vajra Buddha is a reflection of the strength of my flesh and blood, muscles, bones, and internal organs. The stronger my flesh and blood are, the greater the Inner Vajra Buddha will be. The Inner Vajra Buddha is growing up, which is the motivation for him to continue to persevere. This is an arduous and torturous process, not something that can be accomplished overnight. There is no shortcut in practice. My practice of the Inner Diamond Sutra is already considered a shortcut, so I need to endure more pain and disasters than others. The death and rebirth in the body are like countless blades raging inside the body, leaving a bloody mess. It would be okay if it lasts for a few breaths, but Wu Yu has to persist for a month, or even a few months. Many times, Wu Yu really couldn't hold on, so he turned to thinking about the nascent yin and yang chi sword, or absorbed the chi condensing pill to condense the fourth source of magic first. With the growth of the inner Vajra Buddha and the strength of flesh and blood, when refining the chi condensing pill, it is basically very beneficial. The 30 chi condensing pills entered the source of the body one by one. The fourth Dharma source, the Taekong points on both feet, is taking shape. In the place where the spiritual energy erupted, the young man gritted his teeth, and golden light emitted from his body. You could clearly see the raging golden words on his body. Even, rush out of the body and cut the skin. The sharp golden words on his head, chest, hands, and feet were constantly cutting and then shattering, blending into Wu Yu's flesh and blood. After persisting for a few days, Wu Yu would take a qi condensing pill. The time between two qi condensing pills can be said to be much lower than that of everyone in the Tongtian sword sect. Junior brother, this body training method can quickly condense qi, but even if there are not many people who dare to bear it in the distance. Xuanhuan stood on a thick branch, staring in Wu Yu's direction. He has a direct personality, extraordinary toughness, and a pretty good inheritance. He has a bright future. I hope this disaster will not bring him down. As long as he is given time, he will surely soar into the sky in the future. Mo Shishu sighed. Road. I hope Xuanhuan's eyes contain deep sorrow. In this way, Wu Yu persisted for 2 full months under the raging scriptures of the inner Vajra Buddha. Although the inner Vajra Buddha has not yet grown to the 2nd level, it is already 1 foot or 8 feet tall, and is about the same distance from the 2nd level. During this period of time, he refined a total of 15 qi condensing pills. When the 16th qi condensing pill was refined, the magic source of Taekong Point was finally formed. Wu Yu's mana greatly increased and he entered the 4th level of qi condensation realm. The great heavenly immortal technique is now only in its initial stage. This is the secret to becoming an immortal. The biggest effect now is the interaction of yin and yang, giving Wu Yu stronger magic power to restore his strength. Before this, my combat power reached the level of senior sister Su. Now that my magic power has greatly increased and my inner Vajra Buddha has become stronger, I should have surpassed her and reached the level of senior brother Mo. I am probably at the same level as the Qi condensation realm. The 6th level of combat, coupled with the stabilization technique and the newborn Yin Yang Yi Qi sword, will definitely not be worse than them. This chapter is not finished yet. Please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. In just a short period of time, it is unimaginable that my strength has soared to such an extent. Today, immortals such as Xuanhuan are just ants in front of him. In terms of mana alone, Wu Yu now surpasses him. As for Zhang Junlin, it is impossible to catch up with Wu Yu again in this life. After Wu Yu stood up, he felt a surge of pride in his heart. No matter what, I will definitely help. As his magic power increased, Wu Yu's courage also increased a lot. He stood on the high mountain and looked at the blue waves of the mountains. These majestic mountains were now his home. Master, senior brother, senior sister, Qing Mang. The faces of each of them were either serious, funny, or relaxed, gentle, or dependent, constantly emerged in Wu Yu's heart. Continue. As long as he still has time, he will devote himself to cultivating Taoism. Who knows when this disaster will come? One day, Wu Yu followed Qing Mang to Duobao Valley. He was now a famous figure in the Tongtian sword section. As long as he appeared in a crowded place, he would definitely get a lot of attention. Perhaps because Wu Yu defeated Zhang Junlin, the disciples respected him very much and basically smiled at each other. However, it can be clearly seen that Duobao Valley is much more desolate and lacks the prosperity of the past. Wu Yu, suddenly someone called him from behind, and judging from the sound, there was something evil about it. Looking back, it was Zhao Changtian and Yi Qingfeng. Zhao Changtian is tall and mighty, with a strong spirit, and Yi Qingfeng is an extraordinary person, otherwise Lan Huayun would not accept them as his direct disciples. After they stopped Wu Yu, they strode up. The two of them looked a little unkind. Zhao Changtian's eyes were sharp and he asked in a low and rough voice, "What did you do to Shui Yu in Xuanhuan Valley? Why is she doing this all the time? Something is so wrong." Wu Yu, answer honestly. Yi Qingfeng also lowered his voice and said in a warning tone. Wu Yu's status in the Tongtian sword sect is different now. In the past, they might have come directly to threaten him. Wu Yu was no longer in the mood to fight with Lan Huayun's disciples, so he asked, "Why is something wrong with her? She ignored us and has been practicing in seclusion so far without saying a word." Zhao Changtian said. "Isn't this a good thing?" Wu Yu roughly understood. "Good thing? You. If she hadn't been stimulated, how could she have been like this before?" Yi Qingfeng was slightly angry. Wu Yu said, "If you were in the immortal Fate Valley and watched the ghost-faced ape kill all the other disciples except yourself, you would do the same after coming out." He was too lazy to pay attention to them. He was not their opponent before and would be a little wary. Now that he is at the 4th level of Qi condensation, he is no longer inferior to them in terms of combat power. What Yi Qingfeng was dissatisfied with was not what he said, but his attitude. At this time, Wu Yu turned around, called Qingmang and left. "Don't go." The two of them followed. Their conversation immediately attracted the attention of many people. Wu Yu wants to fight with them. Wu Yu has fought all the way and defeated many powerful enemies, but he is still not their opponent now. However, to their disappointment, Zhao Changtian and Yi Qingfeng yelled a few times, and although they looked unhappy, they still left. Obviously, in the face of external pressure, they also know that internal fighting is not the right choice at this time. Everyone, big news. Suddenly, it was like a thunder on the ground. There was a middle-aged core disciple who was not weak in cultivation and rushed into the Duobao Valley out of breath. During this time, all the disciples were very sensitive. After hearing this sound, many people gathered quickly. Wu Yu, Zhao Changtian, Yi Qingfeng, and others also heard the sound, and as everyone gathered to watch, thousands of people gathered here. Judging from the man's face, it was obviously not good news. "Are ghost cultivators, demons, and the Xuanhuan Dao sect coming?" someone asked sadly. These words immediately caused a sensation. "No. No." The man quickly denied it, and everyone breathed a sigh of relief at this time. Everyone held their breath and concentrated. The man said, "The chief disciples and the disciples who protect the teaching are back, and Yang Qing is also back, but Yang Qing is dead." Wu Yu's expression changed. The first and second disciples of Feng Xiya and Lan Huayun's first disciple were never in the Bibo Mountains, so Wu Yu had never seen them. Wu Yu inquired about them. Among them, the first two disciples of Feng Shuya were named, Wan Tianyugzhu. He was not very old. He was the first genius of the Tongtian sword sect who once gained fame. It is said that he is now a Qi-condensing immortal. The cultivation level of the 8th level of Root Realm is comparable to that of ordinary elders. The second disciple, named Yang Qing, is also very talented. However, it is said that this person is rebellious and has a bad temper. He even often contradicts Feng Xiya. He once made a mistake and was exiled by Feng Xiya. He will not be allowed to return to the Bibo Mountains for another 10 years. It is said that he has recently reached the 7th level of Qi condensation realm. Lan Huayun's eldest disciple, named Lan Liyulai, is said to be Lan Shuiyu's biological sister. She is also very talented. It is said that she has recently entered the 8th level of Qi condensation realm. These three are the strongest three among the direct disciples. Yang Qing is said to be almost at the 8th level of the Qi condensation realm. As of this year, he has been exiled for 8 years. In 2 years, he will be able to return to the Bibo Mountains. It is said that in the past 8 years, he has really repented and has been chivalrous and slaying demons. He has a very good reputation and Feng Xiya is very satisfied. Yang Qing, dead. /U003CE /U003E /U003CE /U003F. Follow the official QQ public account 17K, ID, Love 17K, to read first and get the latest information at any time. /U003C/E /U003E /U003C/E /U003E. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 122. Yang Qing, dead. There was a look of regret and pain in the eyes of thousands of people. The cloud of sorrow spread for a while. Yang Qing. Zhao Changtian and Yi Qingfeng looked at each other, and a trace of confusion could be seen in their eyes. Obviously this name also has a memory for them. Wanchen Yuxue, Lan Li Yulai and the others were at Wanjian Shimin. The headmaster, guardian, and many elders have all passed away, the middle-aged disciple said sadly. Go over and have a look. Zhao Changtian and Yi Qingfeng hurried over. Not just them, many people got on their own cranes and flew towards that direction. Walk. This is obviously a big deal. Although Wu Yu had never met Yang Qing, he was his second senior brother. Su Yan would be very sad to leave them. Hundreds of cranes and Tianyunpeng passed through the clouds and headed towards the Wanjian Stone Gate, which was quite spectacular. Zhao Changtian. Wu Yu chased after him, and in front of him were Zhao Changtian and Yi Qingfeng. In the face of such a big event, they couldn't care less about their dissatisfaction with Wu Yu. Wu Yu, speaking of it, Yang Qing back then and you today are very similar. They both started out as handymen, were favored by the master, and soared to the sky. Who would have thought it was due to chance encounters? Even their personalities are very similar. They all have this unruly energy. However, Yang Qing is more fierce. He dares to kill anyone. If he hadn't killed several core disciples at once and violated public outrage will not allow the headmaster to be exiled. From their descriptions, Wu Yu had a rough outline of this person. Like himself, he started out as a handyman, and then he developed a transcendent talent, an unruly personality, and broke the kendo rules, so he was exiled. But he must still respect Feng Xiya in his heart, otherwise he would not have made so many achievements in these years. Merit. More and more cranes flew towards Wanjian Shimin. Looking from a distance, you can see that there are many people gathered there under the 10,000 sword stone gate. They all fell down on the periphery and then surrounded them. Our senior sister is back, please get out of my way. Zhao Changtian and Yi Qingfeng squeezed aside the others and headed inside. You are outside, I will go in first. Wu Yu and Qing Mang separated temporarily, and followed Zhao Changtian and others to squeeze in. Good. When the ordinary disciples saw the disciples who were the masters and guardians arriving, they quickly opened a path to let them in. Master, senior sister. Zhao Changtian and Yi Qingfeng quickly greeted him respectfully after squeezing in and stood aside. Feng Shuya, Lan Huayun and the others were all there, as were Su Yanli and Mo Shishu. Wu Yu also reached the middle position at this time, and his eyes first fell on the ground in the middle. There was a person lying there, covered with a white cloth, and his appearance was invisible. When Wu Yu first arrived, Feng Shuya was lifting a corner of the white cloth, and Wu Yu happened to see a man below. His whole body was shriveled, and he was a mummy. It was impossible to tell what he really looked like. Call. The white cloth was covered again. Master Wu Yu could clearly see that Feng Shui's shoulders trembled. His back was turned to Wu Yu, and Wu Yu could not see his expression, but from his trembling hands and lonely back, he could see how huge a blow this incident had had on him. Yang Qing. Feng Shui's voice was low and he struggled to say these two words. Master Su Yanli walked up and held his arm. Wu Yu saw that her eyes were also red, and her eyes were wet with tears. Whoever did it, kill him. Mo Shishu looked even more crazy, looking at the other two people in the field with red eyes. They all entered the industry earlier than Wu Yu, so they naturally knew the dead Yang Qing. Seeing how hurt they were, Wu Yu bit his lip, feeling unspeakable anger in his heart. Of the other two people, one of them had black eyes and gray hair. If you didn't look at his face, you would have thought he was an old man. His face is very handsome, and his temperament is very similar to Feng Shuya. He is simply a replica of Feng Shuya. Every move he makes has the same aura as Feng Shuya. No wonder Wu Yu heard that the person who looks most like Feng Shuiya is Su Yan Li, but his eldest disciple Wan Tianyugxiu. Another woman is quite similar to Lan Shuiyu, but her face is more mature and graceful. Her beauty is not comparable to that of a yellow-haired girl like Lan Shuiyu. Her temperament and expression are completely different from Lan Shuiyu. This is why she is Lan Huayun's eldest disciple and Lan Shuiyu's biological sister Lan Liyulai. Demon Fox, 9 Immortals. Wan Tianyugxiu pursed her lips and said these words. Sure enough, it's her. Everyone was shocked when they heard the name. Within a radius of thousands of miles, the reputation of this 1,000-year-old fox demon is extremely prominent. This is the nightmare in the minds of many ascetics, especially male ascetics. Maybe there is no need to say Wan Tianyu Shui, Feng Shuiya will understand. He was sucked into a mummy. It was obviously caused by the fox demon. Wu Yu had seen the fox demon in Xuanhuan Valley and knew how terrifying the fox demon was. This is a 1,000-year-old fox demon with a demon elixir. I wonder how much scarier it is than Qian'er. This is a declaration of war against our Tongtian sword sect. Lan Huayun's eyes were dark and she was trembling with anger. At the beginning, Yang Qing had a bad temper and killed several core disciples. It was Lan Huayun who added fuel to the flames and banished him. Over the years, Yang Qing corrected his mistakes after realizing that he was wrong, and he could return to the Bibo Mountains before he saw it. He did not expect that it would be done in such a way. Come back. Wu Yu was a little worried about Feng Xiya. For him, every disciple has invested a lot of his feelings. He was kicked out initially, but what came back today was a corpse. One day he was a teacher, and all his life he was a father. How could he bear this? This chapter is not finished yet. Please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. I saw Feng Shuiya gently retreating from Su Yanli, half kneeling on the ground, and picking up Yang Qing's body. Go home and rest in peace. He sighed, and the sword energy rolled under his feet, forming a giant sword. Feng Shuiya stepped on it and said to everyone, there's nothing to see, it's all gone. With that said, he took Yang Qing and flew away. In the direction of Tongtian Immortal Palace. Master should bury him in Tongtian Peak. Su Yanli still couldn't get over the pain. In fact, when Wu Yu was in Xuanhuan Valley, Feng Xiya also erected a tombstone for him. However, when Wu Yu returned later, he destroyed the tombstone. Overjoyed, news of Yang Qing's death came. Information. U4, watch your master carefully. Don't let him get angry. Go directly to the fox demon to fight. Maybe the fox demon will set a trap with Jiangxia and the 7 ghosts of Shihei, waiting for your master to take the bait. Ye Lan Huayun said silently, then looked at Lan Liyulai and said, since you are back, come with me. Lan Liyulai glanced at Wan Tianyugxiu next to her, and then said, okay, master. Her personality seems to be much gentler. It's all gone. Lan Huayun scolded, and everyone quickly gave way, riding on the crane and leaving one by one. However, seeing Yang Qing's death with their own eyes, everyone felt heavy in their hearts. So many core disciples of Xuanhuan Valley had died before, and everyone felt sad in their hearts. I was very nervous, let alone witnessing the horror of the demon with my own eyes this time. Everyone left one after another. After Lan Huayun left with Lan Liyulai, Zhao Changtian, and others, Wu Yu and the others were the only 4 left in the 10,000 sword stone gate. Wu Yu asked Qing Mang to go back first. Wu Yu was not familiar with Yang Qing, so he was not as hurt as they were, but the hatred still existed in his heart. After a moment of silence, the elegant Wan Tianyugxiu looked at Wu Yu and said, Wu Yu, I heard about you outside. Before I came back, I thought you died in Xuanhuan Valley. I didn't expect you to be still alive. Yang Qing will be happy to know that you are still alive. Ever since Feng Shuiya took Wu Yu in, they all knew about Wu Yu's existence. Big brother. There are many rumors circulating in the Tongtian sword sect about this first disciple, all of which are regarded as admirable deeds. I see, have you reached the 4th level of Qi condensation realm? It's almost time to catch up with Yan Li and plant the immortal roots. Wan Tianyug's eyes were as bright as a torch, and she had a very clear feeling for Wu Yu's 4 magic sources. The 4th level, Su Yan left the two of them and realized Wu Yu's changes. Senior brother, when Wu Yu was still at the 3rd level, he had already defeated Zhang Junlin at the 5th level of Qi condensation realm. Mo, she wrote. Oh, the other party was slightly surprised. While talking, Wan Tianyug's touched the Meiji bag, took out a pure white jade bottle, handed it to Wu Yu, and said, "This is the first time we meet, senior brother is not prepared. This is the Giwen pill, just give it to you as a greeting gift." Hearing the words Giwen Dan, Wu Yu searched his memory. From the Dongsheng Shenzhouji, he remembered this elixir. It is a kind of holy medicine for healing. Even if it is severely injured, it can nourish the internal organs, bone and muscle growth. There is a Giwen pill for sale in Duobao Valley, but it is worth 13 Qi condensing pills, so it is definitely a valuable thing. When they met, Wan Tianyug's gave him such a gift. Wu Yu hesitated, then Su Yanli said, "Take it, senior brother also gave us a gift when we started." When Wu Yu went down to Suqiao, Su Yanli and Mo Shishu also gave him gifts. "Thank you." In this case, Wu Yu accepted it. After all, the Giwen pill was of great use. Of course, he also keeps this brotherhood in mind. "Junior brother, from now on, there are only 4 of us left, but we must fight side by side. For the master, we must also fight the monsters to the end." Wan Tianyug's probably hates monsters more than Wu Yu. Brothers are of one mind. They are both pure. It is a blessing for Wu Yu to be able to gain such brotherhood in the Tongtian sword sect, and he cherishes it very much. Come on, what the guardian said is right. We have to persuade the master to let him get out of this pain. Yang Qing is the disciple he worries about the most, but he is also the disciple he worries about the most. Wan Tianyug's feeling. Together, everyone headed towards the Tongtian Immortal Palace. The 3 senior brothers and sisters were all in front, and Wu Yu followed them. Looking at them, and then at the Blue Mountains, Wu Yu saw 2 words, friendship. The love between master and disciple, the love between brothers and sisters. Righteous justice, passionate justice. /U003CE /U003E /U003CE /U003F. Follow the official QQ account 17K, ID, Love 17K, read early, and keep abreast of the latest information. /U003C /E /U003E /U003C /E /U003E. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 123. Glazed Tianshan Mountain, Glazed Immortal Palace. The palace, like snow-capped ice crystals, stands on the fairy mountain. It really feels like a fairy palace. People who walk in this fairy palace are like fairies descending to earth. In the glazed fairy palace, 2 women stood opposite each other. They were the charming and domineering Lan Huayun, and the gentle and charming Xue Liyulai. The 2 talked for a while, and Lan Liyulai looked worried and said, "Auntie, the Zhongyuan Taoist sect has gone too far and colluded with ghost cultivators and demons. How can no one be able to control them?" Lan Huayun sneered and said, "Our area is the easternmost part of Dongsheng Divine Continent. It is far away from the core. It can be regarded as a place outside the world. For those cultivators of Dongsheng Divine Continent, it is really not worth mentioning, so it is regarded as the sky is high and the emperor is far away. It will be difficult for anyone to take care of it in a short period of time. By the time someone takes charge, Zhang Xie will probably take over the Bibo Mountains, Lan Huayun added. Then, is it possible to seek help from that place? After all, the Tongtian sword sect is part of it. Speaking of that place, Lan Huayun shook her head and said, it's too far away. There may not be enough time, and they may not pay attention to it. If they really arrive, they may not have enough time. Is it really this urgent? Lan Liulai asked worriedly. Well, I don't know what they are preparing for. In fact, they should attack earlier. Even so, maybe killing Yang Qing is almost a signal. I estimate that in a few days. Lan Huayun looked ugly. After competing with Feng Shui for so many years, she didn't expect that at this time, an outsider would invade. Then how should we respond? Lan Liulai said. Lan Huayun glanced at her and said, it's none of your business. It's mainly up to us to defeat them. Auntie, I have reached the 8th level of Qi condensation realm, Lan Liulai said unwillingly. So what? Lan Huayun was resolute and did not want Lan Liulai to participate in the battle. She focused her eyes and asked, Lu Li, did you fall in love with Tian Yuxiu that night? Lan Liulai was startled for a moment, a little panicked, and asked, why did my aunt suddenly ask this question? It's not important. Say. Lan Huayun stood up suddenly, suppressing her power. Then Lan Liulai hesitated and said, this is just a personal relationship between children. Compared with the survival of the sword sect, it is just a trivial matter. I object, Lan Huayun said flatly, and then said seriously, Lu Li, you and he are not from two different worlds. After this disaster is over, I will apply to send you to that place. When the time comes, you will be separated forever, one in the sky and one on the earth. It is impossible. Lan Liulai burst into tears. If you really go there, will you never see it again? Even if we meet, there will still be a gap. The Xuanhuan Dao sect is located on the Xuanhuan Fairy Mountain to the east of the Bibo Mountains. The Xuanhuan Fairy Mountain is a peak, twice as high as Tongtian Peak. The Xuanhuan Dao sect, with its large number of people, is famous for its with Yuanxian Mountain as the core. Many monastic palaces were built. To the west of the Xuanhuan Fairy Mountain, there is the Fulai Palace, which is the territory of the Prince Zhang Junlin of the Xuanhuan Daozong. Ever since the return of the Tongtian sword sect, there have been constant roars and curses coming from Fulai Palace. Until recently, the voices have become quieter. Inside the Fulai Palace, there are talisman papers posted everywhere, with a huge bagua pattern in the middle. There is an awe-inspiring atmosphere of justice everywhere, demonstrating the righteousness of the famous sect. However, inside the Fulai Palace, there were 7 women standing in cloaks and black clothes. They were dressed very similar to Ghost Princess. They were tall or short, male or female, and had different appearances. There is an evil, murderous, and ghostly aura on her body that is 10 times more than that of the ghost girl. Compared to them, Ghost Princess is just a child. With them standing here, the entire Fulai Palace seems to be crowded with ghosts. As long as you listen carefully, you can hear the low ghost cry. There are even ghost shadows floating past the curtains, under the bed, pillars, and door corners. There are even more ghosts floating under the ground. There were faint waves of agitation, as if a giant beast was crawling away underfoot. Although they were wearing cloaks, the pungent smell of blood could not be concealed at all. These 7 people looked like murderers and practiced the way of ghosts and gods. They were the famous Red Sea 7 in the East China Sea. Ghost. Of course, they call themselves the 7 Immortals of the Red Sea. Inside the Fulai Palace, the 7 ghosts of Shihei stood on one side, and on the other side was Zhang Xie, who was wearing black and white robes and looked awe-inspiring with justice. He stood with his hands behind his back. In front of him, there was Zhang Junlin sitting cross-legged on the ground. At this time, after Zhang Junlin finished practicing, he wiped away the fine beads of sweat on his forehead and stood up. Recovered, Zhang Xie asked. Well, the Zhuyuan pill is indeed effective. After the Tanzong point is restored, because it has condensed the magic source before, now it is necessary to consume the qi condensing pill again. Now it has returned to the previous level, but I don't know, it won't leave any trouble in the future. After talking about it, Zhang Junlin remembered the scene when he was defeated by Wu Yu, and his expression suddenly became vicious and crazy. Dad! That Wu Yu insulted me twice. This time he almost killed me. I will make him pay with blood for this deep hatred. I will kill him with my own hands, cut him into pieces, and let him taste it. Only by doing all the things in the world and dying in extreme pain can I relieve the hatred in my heart. He was lawless in the Xuanhuan Dao sect, and he has never suffered such humiliation since he started practicing Taoism. Zhang Xie frowned slightly and said, "Don't let hatred blind you. Wu Yu is indeed good, but the mistake is that he is a member of the Tongtian sword section. He is destined to have no future. You should take a longer-term view. Correct yourself. Strike the avenue." "Yes, Dad. But I need to kill him before I can take the next step, otherwise this will be my inner demon forever," Zhang Junlin whispered, hysterically, almost roaring. Zhang Xie frowned and said, "I'm afraid you won't be able to defeat Wu Yu within a short period of time." Zhang Junlin sneered, "As long as we can kill him, who cares whether we can defeat him? The day we attack the Bibo Mountains is when Wu Yu will suffer the pain of hell." Ha ha. At this moment, the leader of the 7 ghosts of the Red Sea behind him, a short man who looked like a 10-year-old child, laughed. His voice was rough, that of a middle-aged man. "Tian Yujun, do you have any good ideas?" Zhang Xie turned around and looked at the 7 ghosts of the Red Sea. When he looked at Tian Yujun, his eyes were very solemn. Obviously, the shortest Tian Yujun was the boss of the 7 ghosts of the Red Sea. "I have something that can allow young Master Zhang to defeat his opponent head-on. It can also make his opponent suffer from the body devoured by 100 ghosts and never be reincarnated." Tian Yujun smiled. "Wonderful. Thank you, Senior Tian Yujun," Zhang Junlin said happily. The conflict between him and Wu Yu has continued from Wu Du to today. He was defeated twice and was deposed once. It has reached the point of being out of control. When I think of Wu Yu today, I naturally tremble with hatred. Sect Master Zhang, the 9 Immortals haven't arrived yet? We can't wait any longer." Among the 7 ghosts of the Red Sea, there was a delicate voice, more beautiful than the voice of Ghost Ji. Zhang Xie smiled and said, "Qiunji, don't be anxious. I guess it's just these few days. When the time comes." Tongtian Immortal Palace. The strongest and most core figures of the Tongtian sword sect are all sitting opposite each other today. There are the supreme leader Feng Shuya, the guardian Lan Huayun, and 5 elders, including Elder Shentu, Elder Dugu, and Elder Gongsun. There are also elders who teach martial arts and elders who enforce laws. There are 9 people in total, who are the core experts of the Tongtian sword sect. The 7 ghosts of the Red Sea unite and have the strength equivalent to a golden elixir powerhouse. Together with Zhang Xie and Zhu Xian, there are 3 people in total. They have many 9th and 10th levels of qi condensation under their command. The number is at least more than 10. Although they are stronger than the Xuanhuan Dao sect, but together they are indeed one step ahead of us. Xuangong Elder Mu Ji shook his head and sighed. Elder Shentu said, "The only thing we rely on is the 10,000 swords formation that the 2 supremes have copied together over the years to protect the mountain gate. Once the 10,000 swords formation is breached, our young disciples of the Tongtian sword sect, we will directly face the impact of the immortal war, then." Having said this, he felt very worried. Don't try to increase their ambition and destroy your own prestige. The opponent may not be able to break through the 10,000 sword formation of the 2 supremes. If we really fight, we will die every day, but we are still afraid of them. I don't believe it. Then Zhang Xie is not afraid of the heavy losses of his Xuanhuan Dao sect. The gain is not worth the loss, Elder Gong soon said angrily. They are also afraid of killing 1,000 enemies and losing 800 to themselves. They are really anxious for us, so they all fight with all their strength. I wonder if they are afraid of being seriously injured. Anyway, I am ready to die in battle, Elder Lonely said. They, the old men, have no hope of forming a golden elixir, and they will die soon, so they are all people who are not afraid of death. After listening to everyone's discussion, Lan Huayun suddenly said, "What you said makes sense. We don't know the outcome of this immortal war until it starts. Although we are at a disadvantage in terms of combat power, we occupy the dangerous position of the Bibo Mountains. There is also the 10,000 swords formation. In a deadly battle, the outcome is uncertain. However, I have another suggestion." And everyone listened. Lan Huayun said, "If the 10,000 swords formation is breached by the opponent, we can fight to the death, yes, but we must leave some routes for the Tongtian sword section. If we are defeated, they will still have a chance to make a comeback, instead of staying in the Bibo Mountains. As we fight to the death, they are still young and cannot be of much help for the time being. If Bibo Mountain survives this battle, it will not be too late to bring them back." The wrinkled elder Shentu opened his eyes and asked, "Do you mean to protect the teachings by transferring some of the elite disciples and letting them leave the Bibo Mountains so that they will not participate in the battle to protect the teachings?" "That's right. Lan Huayun should have discussed it with the other 4 elders, so they didn't ask any questions." She continued, "Among the disciples, the youngest and most outstanding ones are none other than the headmaster's disciples and my direct disciples. There are only 8 of them left today. Except for Wan Tianyuxiu and Lan Liyulai, the strength of the others is incomparable. They won't be of any help in the battle of protecting the cult, they will only increase life and death. If we send them away, once we are defeated, we can still hope that they will make a comeback in the future and take back the mountain gate." What Lan Huayun said made sense, so everyone looked at each other, but no one objected. They really can't help in this immortal war, they will only increase casualties. However, in the end, it still depends on Feng Shui's intention. After all, there are still his disciples here. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qingyang. Chapter 124. I saw him thinking for a moment. Maybe it was Yang Qing's death that touched him a lot. He turned to look at Lan Huayun and said, "You are right, we should protect them thoroughly, but do you have a complete plan? After all, if they leave the Bibo Mountains, they may be in more danger." Lan Huayun said lightly, "I have thought about it a long time ago. I naturally understand how to let them leave safely. There may be enemy spies around our Bibo Mountains, so we must personally escort them. As long as they are allowed to enter the territory forest, and go on foot, without sitting on the crane or Tianyun Peng, let them go in the direction of the eastern imperial city. If Zhang Xie wants to find them in the Tianyu forest, it will be like finding a needle in a haystack. To the west of the Bibo Mountains, not far away, is a very primitive heavenly forest. It is said to be a forest, but it is actually an endless stretch of primitive mountains. There are extremely tall trees growing on those mountains, which is like the world of giants. It is said that there will also be giant trees hundreds of feet high, almost like mountain peaks. That is a place that mortals simply cannot reach. After passing through the Tianyu forest and walking for a while, you can reach the destination Eastern Imperial City. Eastern Imperial City. Upon hearing this name, everyone's eyes changed. If the Bibo Mountains are lost, the prosperous place like Donghuang City, where all the immortals gather, is indeed a suitable place for them to grow up. Elder Shentu nodded. We personally escorted them into the Tianyu forest to prevent the eyeliners from discovering our movements. As long as we enter the Tianyu forest, it will be difficult for us to find them, let alone Zhang Xie. In addition, I think it is still difficult for us to find them. An elder should be sent to personally escort them to the Eastern Imperial City, Lan Huayun said. According to her plan, it is indeed foolproof. This method is to leave incense for the Tongtian sword sect. She knew that Feng Shui was very defensive, and they should have the same opinion on issues involving the survival of his direct disciples. Sure enough, after pondering for a moment, he said, then let's decide, but with their personalities, they probably won't agree to leave. Lan Huayun smiled lightly and said, they are all a group of children. You can deceive them with any excuse. You don't have to worry about it. You can rest assured to strengthen the 10,000 swords formation. After many years, they had only developed some tacit understanding at this time. Feng Shui thought for a moment, and finally his eyes fell on Elder Shentu. Shentu, you escort them all the way to the Eastern Palace. Elder Shentu was shocked and said quickly, Headmaster, I want to stay here. Escorting them is a more important task. We can't make any mistakes. When we get to Donghuang City, if we haven't been defeated yet, it won't be too late for you to come back and join the battle. All right. This is an order. Feng Shui thought for a moment and confirmed that there were no loopholes in the plan, then asked Lan Huayun to do it. She knew that Lan Huayun was only concerned about the life and death of Lan Liulai and Lan Shuiyu, so she came up with this method, along with Wan Tianyuxiu and Wu Yu. However, leaving roots for the Tongtian sword sect is indeed the top priority. After all, they were going to fight a last-ditch battle in these Blue Mountains. A few days later, Wu Yu was at the final stage of forging the inner Vajra Buddha. Suddenly, that night Tianyuxiu, Su Yanli, and Mo Shisha came riding cranes together and called Wu Yu out. Wan Tianyuxiu said, the guardian has called the four of us over, let's go. Okay, Wu Yu sat on the crane from the fairy beast garden and flew up to the sky of the Blue Mountains, and followed everyone to the Liulai Tianshan Mountains, which Wu Yu had never been to before. It was the only snow patch in the Bibo Mountains. We don't know why, we are just curious, Su Yanli told Wu Yu softly. Mo Shisha shook the fragrant folding fan and said wretchedly, I guess it must be Lan Huayun who wants to betroth Lan Liulai to the senior brother, and then Lan Shuiyu to the junior brother. Everyone is happy. I have pity on Yan Li and me. They are all alone, I think, why don't we form a couple? You and your 100 female servant disciples can go there. Su Yanli was too lazy to pay attention to him. Of course, this was a joke. Wu Yu knew that there must be something else going on. Riding the crane, not long after, the glazed Tianshan arrived. They landed at the foot of the mountain, and then climbed up the glazed Tianshan on foot, heading towards the glazed Immortal Palace. Looking up, the glazed Immortal Palace seemed to be on the snowy mountain. Pearl. Arrive. The door of Liulai Immortal Palace has been opened for them. When they walked into the pure and beautiful Liulai Immortal Palace, they found Lan Huayun sitting on the throne, with 4 of her disciples underneath. Lan Shuiyu was also there. Wu Yu had not seen it for a long time. She did. Now when she saw Wu Yu, her eyes were a little dodgy. Everyone is here, let me get straight to the point. Lan Huayun's gaze swept across everyone, lingering for a while on Wan Tianyuxiu and Wu Yu, who looked very much like Feng Shui. Then, she began, this time, there is a very important task that I want to entrust to you. The 8 people listened carefully. They are indeed the youngest and most talented group of people. You all know that today our Tongtian sword sect is facing a life and death enemy. Among the 3 opposing parties, the most powerful people at the top who can play the role of the golden elixir are more powerful than us. Therefore, we must get the help of a strong golden elixir. These days, I have communicated with a powerful Jindan man, and he promised to help us, but he has to fulfill one of his conditions. Condition. This is a good thing, but they can't figure out what this has to do with themselves. Lan Huayun continued, that is a weirdo who likes to recruit disciples. There are 10 disciples now, all of whom are talented people. His condition is that if the disciples of me and the Master are stronger than his disciples, he is willing to help us. Time is urgent and they need to get on the road immediately to meet the challenge of his 10 disciples. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. For a moment, the 8 disciples looked at each other. Wan Tianyugzio said, "Protector, can you trust that person? All he needs is that we are stronger than his disciples." Lan Huayun nodded and said, "Yes, this is an old friend of the headmaster. I haven't contacted him for a long time. He and Feng Shui have been fighting for a long time and they are evenly matched, so now he wants to fight as a disciple. It's amazing that there are people like this. However, the world is huge and full of wonders. Wu Yu and the others had always wanted to help, and now, the opportunity finally came. In a moment, the headmaster and I will personally escort you to the Tianyu forest. The Shentu Elder Council will send you to the East Imperial City to find this person. Because you are worried that you will be discovered by the Zhonyuan Dao sect, demons, etc., you cannot ride Zion He, we can only go to the Eastern Imperial City on foot. Time is tight, so your task is important. The leader and I have to guard this place at all times, so we can't accompany you there. Seeing how serious Lan Huayun is, it must be really urgent. Everyone go back and tidy up. The headmaster, Elder Shentu, and I are waiting for you at Wanjian Shimin. Go ahead." After Lan Huayun finished speaking, she stepped down from the throne and went out. A blue light flashed past, and she must have gone to Wanjian Stone Gate. Suddenly such a big task came, and it was difficult for everyone to accept it for a while. Wan Tianyugzio said, "This is a big event and there is no time to waste. If you don't need to prepare, go directly to Wanjian Shimin. In fact, there is not much to prepare, and most of the people have their finances nearby." "Lu Li, where are you?" Wan Tianyugzio asked. "Let's go directly." Lan Liulai smiled gently, but a little bitterly. "Good." For a moment, a group of 8 people, headed by the senior brothers and sisters from both sides, headed towards the Wanjian Stone Gate. Their action was considered concealed, so they arrived without making any noise. As expected, Feng Shui and Ricky, all the elders Shentu, are here. Master Wu Yu and others stepped forward. Feng Shui stared at them and said, "In terms of details, Elder Shentu will tell you on the road. Remember to ensure safety. It's best to defeat your opponent. If you can't, don't blame yourself. You are disciples of the Tongtian sword sect, he is a swordsman who is not afraid of anything. Don't let Master down in the future." This happened in such a hurry that everyone was a little confused. However, at least it is something that can help the Tongtian sword section. It is a huge challenge, so everyone has a fire in their hearts. It is very likely that the survival of the Tongtian sword sect is based on their mission. "Wu Yu." Feng Xiya suddenly stopped him. "Master." Feng Shui took out the things Wu Yu got in the Immortal Fate Valley from the Sumuru bag and said, "I have checked it for a few days and basically concluded that this is an immortal root. I just don't know what kind of immortal root it is. If you arrive at the 5th level of the Qi condensation realm, whether you want to plant it or not depends on you." Wu Yu understood. "It must be immortal root, but I don't know what effect it has. It may be very good, it may be very bad. However, judging from the newborn Yin Yang 1 Qi sword, it is basically not bad." After saying that, Feng Shui took out another thing from the Sumuru bag, which was a sword. When the sword appeared, even Wan Tianyugzio was stunned. It was a long sword with pure black on the left half and pure white on the right. It was very generous and heavy. There was a magical weapon array on the left and right sides of it. The magic weapon array was a line engraved on the sword. Just by looking at the words on the blade, you can feel the sword energy soaring to the sky. It is obvious that this sword is more domineering than the Lirijin Liu. This is the black and white Dao sword. It has the Tianyin formation and the Tianyang formation. The two formations are combined, and the sword swings in all directions. It is very suitable for your nascent yin and yang one qi sword. From now on, he will be yours. Wu Yu was extremely excited and took the black and white sword. Click. The black and white Dao swords can be separated and turned into two swords, one black and one white. However, when they become two swords, they are both narrow swords with sharp thorns. Let's go. Before Wu Yu could take a closer look, Feng Shui urged him. They didn't use the crane, but set off directly and hurried on their feet. After getting off the Wanjian stone gate, they headed west. Brother, where is East Imperial City? Wu Yu asked on the way as it was snowing that night. The entire Dongsheng Divine Continent, the first core in the east. The place where ascetics gather. There are countless strong people, and there are strong people who surpass the golden elixir. There is also a look of yearning in Wan Tianyug's eyes. Oh! It looks like this trip will be exciting. After getting the black and white Dao sword, Wu Yu couldn't wait. Heaven-swallowing record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 125. Xuanhuan Fairy Mountain towers into the clouds and is shrouded in fairy mist. To the south of Xuanhuan Fairy Mountain, there is Xuanhuan Mountain, which is the place where Xuanhuan Daozong entertained the seven ghosts of the Red Sea. Of course, this is also the gateway to Xuanhuan Dao section. If you want to go to Xuanhuan Immortal Mountain, you still have to pass by Xiaoyuan Mountain. The Xuanhuan Immortal Palace is filled with ghosts and shadows. These days, the disciples of the Xuanhuan Dao sect don't dare to come here. Once they get close, those ghost cultivators will not obey the rules, and their fate may be lost. Some female disciples lost their virginity for no apparent reason. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. These matters were reported to Zhang Xie, but he ignored them and only asked people to stay away. Zhang Junlin, on the other hand, hangs around here every day, and seems to have become brothers with the seven ghosts of the Red Sea. Naturally, the seven ghosts of the Red Sea have taught him a lot of tricks. On this day, Zhang Xie drove a bright red, huge gourd and came here through the clouds, only to see the seven ghosts of the Red Sea and Zhang Junlin having a lively discussion. What happened? Zhang Xie fell to the ground, his face full of surprise. Zhang Junlin looked excited and shouted, "Dad, something strange happened." "What's weird?" "It's up to God Jun to say this." The second god in Zhang Junlin's mouth is the tallest among the seven ghosts of the Red Sea. He is like a giant bear and is 3 feet taller than Zhang Junlin. Ordinary people cannot grow to such a height. His body was also terrifyingly thick. His thigh alone was thicker than Yu Jun's entire body that day. That day, Yu Jun stood in front of him, a baby. This thick, human-shaped giant bear's dick is the second king of God. At this time, the second Lord God smiled naively and said, "Sect Master Zhang, do you remember what I said that I once gave my disciple a bag of sumuru, but it was taken away by Wu Yu, the enemy of the young sect leader?" Zhang Xie nodded and said, "I seem to have said that you drew a very hidden mark inside the sumuru bag. You can trace that mark with your ghostly cultivation skills, right?" Lord Shenji said, "That's right, the ghost girl left us before and went to work. We wanted to know her location at all times, so we left the ghost mark. At that time, we thought, even if someone kills the ghost girl, as long as she takes the ghost girl's sumuru bag, we can also avenge her." Zhang Xie is a smart person. After hearing this, his eyes lit up and he said, "You mean, that Wu Yu left the Bibo Mountains? Otherwise, Zhang Junlin would not be so happy." He said, "He was supposed to be hiding in the Bibo Mountains, waiting for me to deal with him, but I didn't expect him to come out. This is him seeking death, and I can't help it." The second Lord Shen said, "Since Wu Yu doesn't know that heaven and earth is thick, we have just discussed it. I will accompany the young sect master there to relieve the hatred in the young sect master's heart." Zhang Xie frowned. Zhang Junlin was indeed very excited, but he was naturally worried about leaving his son alone with this ghost cultivator. Even though this ghost cultivator seemed to be very enthusiastic now, once they achieved their goal, they would definitely turn their backs on each other. They have been harmed these days. Zhang Zik remembers many disciples of Xuanhuan Dao sect. There must be something fishy about Wu Yu leaving alone, Zhang Xie said. What's weird? I think he should have stayed in the Tongtian sword sect and been destroyed by me. Zhang Junlin was a little worried that Zhang Xie wouldn't let him go. At this time, Tian Yujun said, I think so. Normally, such a situation would not happen. Shen Er, which direction is he going? The second Lord Shen said, let me feel it. He took out a compass modified from a half-skull and recited an incomprehensible ghost language. After a while, the compass turned to the west. To the west of the Bibo Mountains, I'm afraid we will enter the heavenly forest. The trees in Tianyu Forest are very tall and the terrain is complicated. I need someone to find a needle in a haystack. Zhang Xie buried his head in thought. After about a while, he suddenly burst into laughter, making everyone confused. Sect Master Zhang, is there anything to be happy about? Tian Yujun asked. Zhang Xie stopped smiling and said, I understand what Feng Shui is going to do. To be precise, it is what Lan Huayun is going to do. Zhang Junlin became anxious and said, Dad, please stop showing off. Zhang Xie then said seriously, in the Bibo Mountains, there are two nieces of Lan Huayun who are very close to her. She seems to be tough, but in fact she is a woman after all. She obviously does not want these two women to stay in the Bibo Mountains. Fighting to the death with us, Tongtian Sword Sect basically has no chance of winning today, so she will definitely propose to transfer some disciples with good qualifications first. Feng Shui knows very little about ghost cultivators. He never expected that his disciples would have you. Disciples things, let alone imagine that there are your ghost marks in the Sumuru bag. So, he is transferring some well-qualified disciples to the Tianyu forest. For a moment, the eyes of the 7 ghosts of Shihei lit up, even a little blood red. I'm at least 80% sure of this, Zhang Xie smiled. Wonderful. Senior Shen Erjun can track this mark. No matter where they go, we can track them. Zhang Junlin was so happy. Zhang Xie said, if my guess is correct, they should be the direct disciples of Feng Shui and Lan Huayun. Feng Shui and Lan Huayun want to guard the 10,000 sword formation, and they will definitely not leave with them. The other elders will also to participate in the battle to protect the teachings. They will send at most 1 elder. If they can destroy this group of people before the battle, it will be a terrible blow to Feng Shui and Lan Huayun. If they can be captured alive, then it will be fine. Let the Tongtian sword sect be destroyed without a fight? Feng Xia, you are so shrewd in your life that you made such a stupid move. Of course, he knew better in his heart that this was just a coincidence. If he were Feng Shui, he would not have thought that the 7 ghosts of the Red Sea would control Wu Yu's position. This chapter is not finished yet. Please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Zhang Xie couldn't help laughing. The 7 ghosts of the Red Sea also sneered as they looked at each other. Zhang Junlin also smiled, as if he had already seen Wu Yu begging for mercy from him. I want to taste Lan Huayun's niece. He he. Shen Erjun's voice was honest, but what he said was creepy. Zhang Xie finally said, Junlin, go and call your uncle. Before the decisive battle, I will give him a mission. Okay, Zhang Junlin went immediately. After a while, a figure similar to Zhang Xie, wearing pure black Taoist robes and carrying a long gun arrived. He was covered up and couldn't see his appearance clearly. He could only see that one of his eyes was blind, and there were swords around the corners of his eyes. Scars. Your Excellency Zhang Ding Tian Yujun and the others also attach great importance to this person. Zhang Xie said, whether my speculation is true or not, I have to go there for Wu Yu. The Xuanhuan Dao sect, sent Zhang and Zhang Junlin. What about you? That day, Lord Yi didn't hesitate much and said, only Lord Shen Er can find them, so Lord Shen must go, plus Ji Qian, there are Lord Shen, Qi Yunji and Lord Zhang. It's enough to deal with one elder. Even if the other party has several elders, we can still add more people. Yes, boss, Shen Erjun seemed impatient. A giant beast-like breathing sound came from the cloak. Then it is decided that we will set off immediately. It is best for you to capture them alive. Even if they die, you must bring back their bodies. As for us, when the 9 immortals arrive and you send good news, we will attack the Tongtian sword sect. The best opportunity to carve up the Bibo Mountains. Zhang Xie was a little excited. Very, very good. Very good. The 7 ghosts of the Red Sea all laughed sinisterly. At this moment, a soft female voice came from the horizon that made people numb and intoxicated, as if they were living in a dream. What's going on? It's so lively. It is a voice that makes people immersed in the sea of flowers, in the gentle land, and even trembles once they hear it. It is a fatal charm for all men especially. 9 immortals. Everyone was startled and looked towards the woods not far away. They saw white mist filling the woods. There were beings with different appearances, like humans and animals, controlling their somewhat uncoordinated bodies. Walking out of the woods, the white mist filled the air, and you could only see hundreds of beings in the middle, lifting up a palace-like sedan together. It could only be described as a fairy sedan. It was very gorgeous, and it was simply a masterpiece in the world. Hundreds of people in total. But Zhang Xie and the others knew that these were not humans, but demons. All kinds of monsters from all over the world. Every monster is a nightmare for mortals. The monstrous demonic energy swept in, almost blowing away the fairy mist of the Xuanhuan Dao sect. The righteousness of the ascetics and this evil spirit are natural enemies, forming a fierce conflict. As soon as the demons arrived, Zhang Xie's expression changed. Brother Zhang, don't call him the 9 immortals of the new family, call him Zhu'er of the new family, that's all. In the palace-like fairy sedan, the charming voice came again, making Zhang Xie swallow a mouthful of saliva. The others were even more unbearable, especially Zhang Junlin. After hearing this voice, I am afraid that you will really feel that a man like Yuan Chen is actually not interesting at all. Because he had never seen such a real beauty in the world as the 9 immortals in front of him. I have heard about Zhu'er's charm skills for a long time, but I didn't expect it to be so powerful. Zhang Xie really admires it. Zhang Xie took a deep breath and said sincerely. We, the Fox tribe, are born with wonderful things. Zhu'er didn't deliberately confuse Brother Zhang. The voice of the fox demon came again. After hearing one more sentence, Zhang Junlin was about to go crazy, his face turned red, and he couldn't help but move towards the group of demons. However, Zhang Xie grabbed him, knocked him out and threw him to Zhang Ding. Being in the company of these 9 immortals of the demon clan is truly frightening. Are these Japanese pirates from the East China Sea? The 9 immortals asked again. Japanese pirates? Please speak politely to the 9 immortals. We cultivate the way of ghosts and gods, and we are the sons of ghosts and gods, Tian Yujun said angrily. He is also someone who can face this 1,000-year-old fox demon and still keep his mind tight. Haha, don't be angry, but having said that, Zhu'er heard what you just said from far away. Zhu'er also has to do his part to deal with that group of children, right? So, Lei Mingniao, just go with them. Yes, 9 immortals. Under the fairy sedan, one of the men's body was flashing with thunder. His eyes showed reverence and he knelt down deeply in front of the fairy sedan. The 9 immortals, the unparalleled demon king, sweep across the world, and are the only one in UNEI. For a moment, the group of monsters shouted in unison, causing the Xuanhuan Dao sect to panic. Beidou search. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 126. When Wu Yu followed the others through the mountains and saw the endless forest in the sky, he couldn't help showing a shocked expression. The world is so big, but my knowledge is still too short, he couldn't help but sigh. Looking around, there are endless forests in that area. The key is that the trees among them are all thick and tall. Almost every tree can be regarded as a single tree. When a group of them entered this heavenly forest, they were no different than a group of ants crawling into it. A village could be built on many trees. Even the shrubs and jungles below are very dense, thick, and obstructed, and the field of vision is less than 10 feet. In front of you is a thick green, endless, and fertile land. Of course, there must be countless rare and exotic beasts living in such a vast forest, and maybe many of them have become monsters and dominate this heavenly forest. However, the Tianyu forest is so big that it is not easy to find them. Feng Shui and Lan Huayun escorted everyone here. With their careful attitude, they basically confirmed that no outsiders discovered their actions this time. In this plan, ensuring the safety of Wu Yu and others is the top priority. In fact, it is this endless sky forest that blocks the communication between more than a dozen mortal fairy kingdoms and other fairy kingdoms around it, and also makes this land become a closed area on the edge of the East China Sea. About half an hour into the journey, it was already difficult to grasp the direction. In the depths of this forest, because the branches and leaves are too dense, it is difficult for light to pass through, so it is as dark as night. The air is full of the smell of rotting tree roots and animal carcasses. There is always a feeling of wetness when entering the interior. Let's say goodbye here. Feng Shui and Lan Huayun in front turned back and stared at everyone indifferently. Elder Shentu said, Headmaster and Protector, Bibo Mountains cannot be without you at all times. Just leave this to me. You should go back as soon as possible. Okay, they didn't hesitate. You guys, listen to Elder Shentu in everything. If you don't listen to him, you just don't listen to me. Do you understand? Feng Shui finally looked at everyone seriously and warned. Everyone nodded. After saying that, Feng Shui and Lan Huayun looked at each other and turned to leave. The moment they turned around, their eyes changed a lot, with some sadness and reluctance in them. It is very likely that this separation will be eternal, and it will be the difference between life and death. However, Wu Yu and the others were invisible. After Feng Shui and the others disappeared completely, Elder Shentu turned around, looked at everyone with squinted eyes, and said, Okay, just follow me. We require a relatively high intensity and highly concealed journey. Who can follow? If not, just tell me. He seemed to be in a hurry, so after he finished speaking, he walked directly through the jungle ahead and hurried quickly through the dense sky forest. Follow me. Wan Tianyugzio greeted everyone. Probably for safety reasons, he and Lan Liulai walked at the back. The slowest one in this team is Lan Shuiyu, so the speed of the team basically depends on her speed. The team was divided into several small groups. Wu Yu, Su Yanli, and Mo Shishu followed closely behind Elder Shentu. Zhao Changtian and Yi Qingfen were around Lan Shuiyu, greeting each other, and the last two were rear guards at the 8th level of the Qi condensation realm. Wu Yu could feel Lan Shuiyu's eyes behind him. She was paying attention to him from time to time, but most of the time, she was still walking in silence. Next to her is the fresh fragrance of Su Yanli, which makes people forget the rotten smell of the deep mountains and old forests. Looking sideways, you can see her fair and charming profile, with her long hair and white skirt flying in the wind, as if she is in a painting. Beauty. Wu Yu. Su Yanli suddenly called him as he was on his way. Senior sister, what's wrong? Wu Yu woke up from his trance. Su Yanli pursed her lips, eyes confused, and said, this happened too fast, I always feel something is wrong. I know Master quite well, why didn't I know he has old friends in Donghuang City? Mo Shishu next to him continued, Junior sister, you are thinking too much. Old man Feng is not young at all. It is normal to have some friends we don't know about. Now the Tongtian sword sect is at a critical moment of life and death. No matter how far away friends are, we have to go and ask for them. What Mo Shishu said makes sense. Wu Yu had only been here for a short time, so he didn't know much about Feng Xia's past. He had an idea and said, let's ask Elder Shentu. Good. The three of them quickened their pace and tried to keep up with Elder Shentu, who was leading the way. Su Yanli asked softly, Elder, what is the name of the person we went to Donghuang City to find? Elder Shentu was stunned for a while, and then he said, my name is Zhang, Genren. Genren Zhang. The three of them had never heard of such a name. Elder Shentu, we don't know what level the disciples of this real person are. Do we have any chance of winning? Wu Yu said. Elder Shentu said, it is said that we are not far behind you. There must be a chance of winning. Otherwise, why would we take such a risk to go to Donghuang City? Don't worry. It seemed that he didn't want to say too much, so he gave random answers. Let's go on our way first, wait for the rest time, and then discuss the details. Good. Wu Yu and the others looked at each other and asked no more questions. Naturally, they would be tired if they were traveling like this. In about half a day, Lan Shuiyu had exhausted all his mana, was out of breath, and could no longer keep up. The same goes for everyone else. Although Wu Yu's magic power is also at the 4th level of the Qi condensation realm, he recovers quickly and has great flesh and blood, so his mental state is actually better than Mo Shishu and the others. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Rest in this tree. It seemed to be dark already. Elder Shentu found a thick giant tree. Wu Yu and the others each chose a branch. Lan Shuiyu and the others went to rest and recuperate. At night, Yuxiu and Lan Liulai were together. It was difficult to see them. Individual. Wu Yu and the others went to the side of Elder Shentu. Seeing them coming, the Elder Shentu said, I actually don't know much. I only have the address of Donghuang City. As long as we find this Genren Zhang after entering, follow his rules and compete with his disciples, as long as you win if you get it, this real person will follow us back to the Bibo Mountains, and that's all the headmaster told me. In this way, it would be difficult for Wu Yu and the others to continue asking questions. Elder, get some rest. Let's go first. They were on another branch. Su Yanli and Mo Shishu also needed to be nursed back to health. Wu Yu found a position in the distance. He originally wanted to forge the inner Vajra Buddha, but this method was too noisy and could easily be exposed. He also worked with others to absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and recuperate his magic power. Looking at the deep forest, he was actually a little confused. Before he could react, he had already been brought here. Genren Zhang. Wu Yu looked to the west, which should be the eastern imperial city. Black and white Dao sword. He took out the black and white sword again and couldn't put it down, touching and feeling it for a long time. Elder brother said that the value of this black and white Taoist sword is similar to Elder Shentu's demon fishing rod. I didn't expect the master to take such good care of me. He was a little ashamed. As a disciple, he had received such an important treasure without doing anything for Feng Xia. It is said that the black and white Taoist swords are only one step away from the spiritual magic weapon. Senior brother said that the Tongtian sword sect has only 2 psychic magic weapons, which are the swords of Master and Lan Huayun. Psychic magic weapons and golden elixir magic are much stronger than ordinary magic weapons and Taoism. I don't know when I will be able to possess psychic magic tools and golden elixir magic. It is said that the psychic magic weapon can also recognize the owner, and can only be used by one person. In this dark night, he had many thoughts. Around midnight, he suddenly heard a strange movement. Evil spirit. He opened his eyes first and felt a little nervous. After all, this was not the Tongtian sword sect, but a wilderness. Who knew what kind of monsters there would be? Just when Wu Yu just noticed it, a golden light suddenly flashed above his head, and a man fell down with a whoosh. It was snowing in the night sky, and immediately after, Lan Liulai was behind him. A demon is coming. I don't know who shouted. Wu Yu was shocked. They were operating in secret, and it would not be good if they encountered a demon. What if the demon had contact with the outside world and passed on their news? Whoosh. Caught. Obviously, Wu Yu was too sensitive and was caught as soon as he appeared as a powerful demon. When Wu Yu landed on the ground, he saw Elder Shentu's demon fishing rod entangled with a giant humanoid object. It turned out to be a man made of rocks, 2 feet tall, with moss on his body. It's the rock spirit. Wu Yu saw it clearly. Aura nourishes all year round, and everything in the world can turn into monsters. In addition to birds, insects, beasts, fish, and shrimps, rocks and trees can turn into monsters, but only in small numbers. The rock spirit has opened its spiritual intelligence, but it cannot fully transform into a human form. The arms, thighs, and head are all made of stones. The head does have a mouth, nose, and eyes. Now the rock spirit is crying in panic, begging for mercy. Masters, masters, the little demon accidentally passed by and disturbed all the masters, please spare your life. At this time, everyone had come down and surrounded the rock spirit. It's a demon that doesn't even have demon essence. Kill it. Lan Shuiyu was affected by the changes in the immortal Fate Valley. Now she hates demons the most. Even when she sees the rock spirit, she hates them very much. As soon as she finished speaking, Lan Liulai raised her sword next to her. Wow! Dear Immortals, the little demon has stayed in this heavenly forest. He has never gone out, and he has never harmed anyone. He has never done any evil deeds. Please don't kill me. The rock spirit trembled with fear and cried. Wan Tianyugzhu held down Lan Liulai's sword for a moment and said, little monsters like this are very common, and they are basically kind-hearted. Please spare his life. No, people's hearts are unpredictable, let alone a monster. If it leaks our whereabouts, it will kill us all. Lan Liulai is also very scary when she is cold. At this time, Wan Tianyugzhu can't stop her. She only sees her sword. As soon as the light flashed, the rock spirit turned into several broken stones and rolled down to the ground. It's over. Okay, Wan Tianyugzhu was a little unhappy and went back first, and the two of them separated. They seemed to be having a conflict, even Wu Yu could tell. However, no one took it seriously. It was normal for couples to quarrel. They continued on their way the next day. 2 days in a row. On this day, Elder Shentu suddenly stopped and looked at the sky solemnly. I saw thunder flashing in the sky. Is there another demon? /U003CE /U003E /U003CE /U003F. Follow the official QQ account 17K, ID, Love 17K, read early, and keep abreast of the latest information. /U003C /E /U003E /U003C /E /U003E. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 127. This time I stayed because of the demon, but it was a little different from the previous times. In this heavenly forest, it is normal to encounter monsters. Small monsters such as rock spirits are everywhere. Lan Liulai killed them several times in total. There was indeed a conflict between them, but I don't know why. However, Lan Liulai's repeated attacks also allowed Wu Yu to see how powerful his 8th level of Qi condensation realm was, and he went after Elder Shentu. For a moment, Elder Shentu's expression changed drastically. "Get together!" Under his loud shouting, everyone had uneasy looks on their faces, and Wu Yu also felt that something unexpected and important must have happened. In a short moment, everyone gathered around Elder Shentu. When they looked up, they could see a violent electric grid flashing in the sky. Purple thunder was like hundreds of electric snakes, flying and swooping fiercely. For a time, countless branches and leaves were directly blown to pieces, burned, and even directly bombarded into powder, flying all over the sky. "It's a big monster. How can there be such a big monster in the Tianyu forest?" Elder Shentu's face was ashen. This matter was much beyond his expectation. Obviously, they were now in a truly dangerous situation. Amidst the flashing thunder and bombing, and the shattering, burning and destruction of branches and leaves all over the sky, Wu Yu vaguely saw a giant bird flying in the sky. The giant bird's wings were spread out almost 10 feet, and it looked a bit like it was a purple goshawk, fierce, now hovering in the sky. Its wings were wrapped with dense electric snakes. As he flapped his wings, the electric snakes were constantly bombarding the ground. In just a few breaths, in a short time, they bombed the large forest around Wu Yu and the others into an open space, allowing the scorching sun from the sky to shine directly in. They had nowhere to escape. More than a dozen trees around, which were like a forest of single trees, were directly crushed by the purple thunder. This kind of power is simply unbelievable to Wu Yu now. Needless to say, he knows that they have encountered a terrifying opponent, probably even more powerful than the ghost-faced ape. This is the Thunder Ming bird. Didn't the Thunder Ming bird follow the 1,000-year-old fox demon? When the demon appeared, Elder Shentu confirmed his identity. He turned out to be a subordinate of the 9 Immortals. Wu Yu's expression changed, which meant that their whereabouts had been exposed and the situation was even worse. Walk. The only way Elder Shentu thought of was to escape. This Tianyu forest is so huge that it is impossible for them to find themselves, so now Elder Shentu's head is in a mess. The most unlikely thing happened. Moreover, all the little monsters encountered along the way were killed. Elder Shentu's journey never followed a straight line. According to reason, even if the Thunderbird knew that they were in the Tianyu forest, it would be impossible to find them. "Your Excellency Shentu, and all the distinguished disciples, where do you want to go?" When Elder Shentu was about to lead everyone forward, 2 shadows suddenly appeared in the trees ahead. One was as tall as a giant bear, possessing the evil and ghostly aura that could kill more than 100,000 people. The other was as petite and cold as the night. The killer in the movie is wearing tight black clothes and showing off his curvy figure, which is simply irresistible. The 2 men appeared, and they seemed to be carrying countless innocent souls behind them. They were so densely packed that the whole forest seemed to be howling like ghosts and wolves. 7 ghosts of the Red Sea. Elder Shentu's expression changed. When he realized the identity of these 2 people, he was already gloomy. Even Lan Shuiyu knew that they were in extreme danger. The thundering bird in the sky and the 7 ghosts of the Red Sea that looked like giant bears in front of them were as big as Elder Shentu. They were huge giants. "Go back." I'm afraid that as soon as this idea appeared, the sound from behind blocked their way back again. Looking back, they saw the sound of horse hooves coming from the forest. After a while, a tall black horse walked out. That horse, there were green flames on the soles of his feet, as if he had walked out of hell. His blood-red eyes were extremely sinister. He was panting heavily and looked like he wanted to rush up and crush Wu Yu and the others. This war horse is a spiritual beast with flames on its feet. It should have very strong endurance. However, the scary thing is the people on the horses. It was a tall man with a mask on his back and a spear on his back, covered in darkness. Behind this man, there is a young man sitting, wearing a fox fur coat, with an extraordinary bearing, and a faint and evil smile, which can easily fascinate the girl. It is Zhang Junlin. Zhang Ding. When he saw this man, Elder Shentu's expression could no longer be gloomy. He realized that perhaps the biggest crisis and the most difficult thing in his life would appear at this moment. It's like a wake-up call. His most important task is to preserve the seeds of a comeback for the Tongtian sword sect, but now, before the war has even started, they are surrounded. Call. The thunderbird fell from the sky and turned into a shirtless purple-haired man. Just one look at that sharp aquiline nose would be unforgettable for a lifetime. The three forces surrounded them from three directions, making it impossible for Wu Yu and the others to escape. Bang bang. Zhang Junlin and Zhang Xie jumped off the ghost flame horse and came side by side. Among them, Zhang Junlin was smiling and applauding, and said with a smile, "Everyone from the Tongtian sword sect, what a coincidence. I, Zhang Junlin, am here to relax. I didn't expect to meet you here. This is bullshit." At this juncture, Wu Yu and the others must have understood that their whereabouts and purpose must have been exposed, so they came for them. The main problem is that even Feng Xiya can't grasp their location now. Why did they will know them? This chapter is not finished yet. Please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Looking back, Su Yanli, Mo Shishu, and Lan Shuiyu were all nervous and their faces were a little pale. Even Wan Tianyuxiu and Lan Liulai had deep frowns on their brows and already held the magic weapon in their hands. Long sword. The opponent's combined strength is more than twice theirs. Except for Zhang Junlin, the others were all formidable opponents, especially Zhang Ding, Shen Erjun, and Lei Mingniao. The three of them have the most terrifying aura, and they should all be at the level of the fifth elder. It can be said that the three of them are the second strongest in their respective forces, second only to Zhang Xie, Tian Yujun, and Juxian. Now they all appear here. How do you know our whereabouts? Elder Shentu's old eyes suddenly shone brightly, and even though he was hunched over, he still had a horrified aura. Zhang Ding sneered, took out the spear, stuck it on the ground, and said, "You are about to die, so don't worry about it." Feng Xiya is really ridiculous. He wanted to send the elite disciples out and hide them so that he could make a comeback in the future, but we were unexpectedly killed. Interception: when we kill you all and attack the Bibo Mountains, hang your corpses up. How spectacular will that be? Will Feng Xiya and Lan Huayun vomit blood and die on the spot? After saying that, all five of them laughed loudly, especially Zhang Junlin, who laughed the hardest. His eyes never left Wu Yu. Elder Shentu? Master Zhang is a fake. Master wants to send us away from the battlefield. Zhang Ding's words hit Wu Yu and the others hard. That night, Tian Yuxiu's eyes were shocked as she looked at Elder Shentu and the 8 disciples. All waiting for Elder Shentu's answer. Elder Shentu said nothing. The truth has been revealed and there is no point in deceiving him anymore. Seeing that he didn't answer, everyone knew the answer. How could Master do this? We were born in the Bibo Mountains and received his favor. Now that the sect is in trouble, how can we leave? Su Yanli's eyes turned red. Not only her, but everyone could not accept this truth. Master, Wu Yu took a deep breath. This truth was like a bloody wound on his body, so shocking. He knew that this was for Feng Xiya and the others' good, but as a disciple, it was really hard to accept it. If so, Wu Yu he would rather die fighting in the Bibo Mountains, at least it was his second home. It seems that you are still kept in the dark. This is funny, haha. Zhang Junlin was trembling with laughter. The more confused Wu Yu and others looked, the more cheerful he became. Elder Shentu gritted his teeth and said, "It's too late to say anything now. Remember, I don't want this life anymore, and I want you to escape this disaster. Once you have the chance, you will escape immediately." Even though he said this, 3-year-old children knew that their chances of escaping today were really too small. The only reluctance is, why did they find themselves? This is simply impossible. Wu Yu looked at Lei Mingniao, then at Zhangding, and finally at the 7 ghosts of the Red Sea. The tall one among them was extremely tall. Although he was separated by his cloak, Wu Yu could see his scarlet eyes. This was the 7 ghosts of the Red Sea. One of them, although similar in strength to Zhangding and Lei Mingniao, is the most terrifying. Wu Yu saw a compass made of skulls in his hand. He was the one who found us, Wu Yu could conclude. He told Elder Shentu about this guess. Elder Shentu saw the compass of the 2 gods with cold eyes. He was suddenly startled and asked, Wu Yu, I heard that you killed their disciples. The ghost cultivator has many tricks. Did he put any mark on you? Until then, I can't think of it. Bag of rice. Wu Yu was startled, took out Ghost Ji's bag of rice and handed it to Elder Shentu. He was originally going to give this bag of meat to Qing Mang, but he was delayed when he entered the Immortal Valley. After coming out of the valley, Zhang Junlin gave him a bag of meat because he was thinking of a ghost cultivator. It would be inappropriate to give the bag to Qing Mang, so Wu Yu kept this bag of meat on him. It must be this thing. I hate it. Neither the headmaster nor the guardian of the school thought that the ghost cultivator has such means to chase after this thing. Elder Shentu's mana surged, and he immediately tore the bag of rice apart. Their biggest doubt was finally clear. However, what happened has already happened, and there is no point in blaming him. Wu Yu had just entered the immortal world, so how could he know about this method? Moreover, this was also their negligence. However, Wu Yu still felt guilty in his heart. He probably understood that it was him who had put everyone in such danger. Now, life and death were on a thin line, and his chances of survival were slim. Wu Yu, that's right. It was you who left Ghost Ji's bag of rice and allowed us to find you. It was you who killed all of them and even allowed us to defeat the Tongtian sword section this time. Your contribution is great. Big. Zhang Junlin put away his smile and said ferociously. After that ferocious look, there was deep pride. \U003CE \U003E \U003CE \U003F. Follow the official QQ account 17K, ID, Love 17K, read early, and keep abreast of the latest information \U003C/E \U003E \U003C/E \U003E. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 128. Wu Yu, you killed us, you deserve to die. After hearing Zhang Junlin's words, Yi Qingfeng in the team burst into tears, pointed at Wu Yu, and cursed in panic. That's right. All of us have been destroyed by you. When encountering such a terrifying lineup, no matter how domineering Zhao Changtian is on weekdays, he was as scared as a chicken at this time, trembling constantly, and almost clinging to Elder Shentu on the body. Shut up. As soon as they finished speaking, everyone except Wu Yu stared at them and cursed, including Lan Shuiyu. After all, they all understood that this matter was beyond Wu Yu's control. Wu Yu was caught in the middle, and his mood was indeed very depressed. On the one hand, he felt guilty towards them, and on the other hand, he felt angry and murderous towards Zhang Junlin. Since Wu Du, this person has been like a ghost, constantly provoking. Wu Yu has defeated him twice, but he didn't expect to meet him again today. As they watched, Zhang Ding, Lei Mingniao and Qi Hai were approaching step by step, ready to start a life and death fight. Zhang Junlin suddenly said, "Everyone, I have been defeated by this Wu Yu twice in a row. I am really unwilling to accept it. Can you elders give me a face and let me personally kill this Wu Yu and eradicate my heart on the immortal path, magic." Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. His tone suddenly changed and he was very sincere. He had obviously discussed this matter with Zhang Ding, so Zhang Ding had no objections. Anyway, in this Tianyu forest, they had nowhere to escape. The gap in strength was really too big. Although Elder Shentu was powerful, there were a lot of dragsters. There was no way to escape. The second Lord Shen and Qianji did not have any objections. They looked at each other and smiled. Qianji said, "In this case, the revenge of our ghost Ji will be left to you." Qianji's voice seemed to have some hint. Seniors Shen Erjun and Qianji, "Don't worry." Zhang Junlin chuckled, stepped forward, pointed his finger at Wu Yu's nose, and said naturally, "Wu Yu, I'll give you a decent and fair chance. Come here." Bar. Wu Yu thought he heard wrongly. Zhang Junlin was defeated twice. The last time, Wu Yu had to destroy a Tanzong appointment magic source. Today, Wu Yu has reached the 4th level of the Qi condensation realm, and the Vajra Buddha within has almost reached the 2nd level. His combat power is comparable to the 6th level of the Qi condensation realm. Zhang Junlin still refuses to give up and provokes him alone. He must have found a way to give him the confidence to kill me alone. Wu Yu knew very well that there was no pie in the world, and Zhang Junlin was not stupid. Wu Yu. Elder Shentu reminded him secretly. Wu Yu understood. Perhaps this is their only chance. Elder Shentu's intention was to let him hold Zhang Junlin hostage as much as possible, so that he might have a chance. Moreover, after this battle, the other party will definitely take action. When the time comes, the life or death of the 9 of them will really be unknown. Good. No matter what preparations Zhang Junlin has and what vicious methods he uses to retaliate against himself, this is the only chance for the 9 of them to escape. Wu Yu naturally had to accept the challenge. Because of the Sumi bag incident, whether Su Yanli cared about it or not, Wu Yu would feel guilty in his heart. "Everyone, I'm sorry about what happened today." Wu Yu looked back at Su Yanli, Mo Shishu, Lan Shuiyu. Before life and death, Su Yanli and Lan Shuiyu looked at Wu Yu with tears in their eyes. They did not blame him at all. But with Wu Yu's character, even if it is dangerous, he will not be afraid at this time. "None of us can die," Su Yanli stared at him with red eyes. "I will definitely not die." Wu Yu gritted his teeth. This feeling of brotherhood and sisterhood brings a surge of emotion to him. Although they are not his biological children, they are still brothers and sisters. "Junior brother." Mo Shishu usually liked to joke, but now his voice was trembling. He looked at Wu Yu and felt 1,000 words in his heart that he couldn't express. "Call." Wu Yu suddenly turned around, eyes gushing with heat, and without any hesitation, he walked towards Zhang Junlin step by step. The 4 sources of energy in the body are yin and yang, and the mana spurts out. Bang bang. Immortal ape transformation. His body instantly elongated and turned into a golden immortal ape, full of wildness. The inner Vajra Buddha in his body was revealed on his body, and his golden hairs were as sharp as hard needles. Boom. The demon subduing stick fell heavily to the ground, and the ground shook. At this time, Wu Yu turned into a ferocious beast in an instant. This made Zhang Ding, Shihei Ghost, and the Thunderbird all turn their attention to Wu Yu. Especially the Thunderbird, they were very fascinated and many subtle changes flashed in their eyes. Oh! Compared with Wu Yu, who is as golden as the god of war today, Zhang Junlin is really not good enough at this time. In terms of momentum, although he has immortal roots and 5 sources, he is completely suppressed by Wu Yu. We must restrain him and kidnap him. This is the only chance, and it is also Elder Shentu's expectation for him. All life and death depend on whether Wu Yu can seize this opportunity. He knows full well the great responsibility. However, after transforming into the immortal ape transformation, although his strength has greatly increased, his temper has also become more violent. The most boiling thing in his chest is his hatred for Zhang Junlin and his desire to kill. "Stop whining, come on." Zhang Junlin smiled heartily, as if he didn't need to prepare at all. Boom. In an instant, Wu Yu turned into a golden light and killed violently. Elder Shentu sighed, everyone's hearts are in their throats. "Wu Yu, this is your fate, haha, just when Wu Yu raised the demon stick and was about to use the 9-dragon pan pillar technique, Zhang Junlin did not use the magic weapon or immortal root. Or, he knew that he was no match for Wu Yu in a head-on battle. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. Therefore, there was a black talisman in his hand. On that talisman, a skull was drawn with blood. Today, when Zhang Junlin's magic power hit, the skull's eyes flashed, as if it came to life. Wu Yu only took a glance and felt that the surroundings were dark, and there were hundreds of ghosts vaguely surrounding him. Every one of them is an evil ghost, extremely terrifying. They have green faces and fangs, expressionless eyes, but their hands and feet move quickly, and they approach Wu Yu with howling like crazy. 100 ghosts devouring talisman, Wu Yu vaguely heard Elder Shentu exclaiming in the distance. It was quite a shocking sound. From Elder Shentu's shocked, angry, and frightened voice, we can tell how terrifying and ferocious this 100 ghost devouring talisman is. Even judging from Wu Yu's own feelings, this is really a deadly talisman, and it is not, it's just that it's so simple and fatal. This is a method from a ghost cultivator. It can definitely make Wu Yu die miserable. Maybe you can't move, but you won't die either. You can watch hundreds of evil ghosts gnaw away your flesh, bones, internal organs, etc. bit by bit with your own eyes. Even more terrifying. This is a talisman that is so cruel that anyone who hears it will be horrified. The two gods and Kyunji were laughing happily. There was only one disciple among the 7 of them. Ghost Ji must be very important in their hearts. Zhang Junlin took action at this time and used their 100 ghost devouring talisman. They avenged Ghost Ji, no wonder they agreed to let Wu Yu come out alone to face Zhang Junlin at this time. All of them have absolute confidence in the 100 ghost devouring talisman. Not to mention Wu Yu, even if Yuxia comes up late in the night, facing the current Zhang Junlin, I am afraid it will be a painful death. Wu Yu, I want to let you experience the most terrible pain, even if you want to die. Haha, Zhang Junlin laughed crazily, and while talking, he went to activate the talisman. Wu Yu only had a moment to react. Between life and death, he has no choice. In an instant, he reacted. After all, he deeply understood the horror of this talisman. In an instant, he handed the demon-subduing stick to his left hand, and quickly took out the black and white Dao sword from the Sumuru bag with his right hand. The body-holding technique. However, life or death still depends on this body-fixing technique. Once the immobilization technique fails and the 100 ghosts devouring talisman is released, Wu Yu will definitely die. There is only one level difference between his mana level and Zhang Junlin's, so the possibility of the body-holding technique being successful is quite high. Really? Body-holding technique, success. The Monkey King changed Wu Yu's destiny once again. Zhang Junlin laughed and stopped at the same time. However, the holding technique obviously did not last long, and Wu Yu did not have time to hijack him. The newly born Yin and Yang sword. This is almost synchronized with the body-holding technique. An invisible yin-yang sword energy penetrated through the black and white Dao sword just after the immobilization technique. The moment Zhang Junlin was still, it flew out with his head. With a muffled sound, the head exploded to pieces. Snap! Zhang Junlin's headless corpse, together with the 100 ghost devouring talisman, crashed to the ground, raising a cloud of dust. Time seemed to have stopped suddenly at this moment. Everyone present looked at the scene in shock. In just a short moment, Zhang Junlin took out the black talisman. As a result, before Wu Yu could activate it, he reached the extreme speed and killed Zhang Junlin with one sword. His head was gone and he was obviously dead. Not only Zhang Ding and the others, but even Elder Shentu and the others were shocked. Just one moment, Elder Shentu was still frightened by the 100 ghost devouring talisman. The next moment, Zhang Junlin appeared in his field of vision. Head out. I'm afraid that only Wu Yu himself knows that he can't be stunned. What will he do in the next moment? The art of sword control, controlling flying swords, is actually the control of objects. He turned over his hand seals, and the Begui body-devouring talisman that he lost control of fell into his hands. Zhang Ding was the closest to Wu Yu. As soon as Zhang Junlin died, he drew his spear and stabbed Wu Yu. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 129. The Moment of Life and Death. Wu Yu was indeed decisive in his actions. Zhang Ding did not touch the 100 ghosts devouring body talisman. He tried to kill Wu Yu, but instead let Wu Yu grab the 100 ghosts devouring body talisman. The moment he held the talisman, Wu Yu's mana surged in, activating the talisman array in the talisman, releasing its power instantly and bursting out. Wu Yu's target is naturally Zhang Ding. That Zhang Ding is at the 10th level of the Qi condensation realm, and he is not yet old. He is very likely to be a strong man on the Golden Core path in the future, and he can send Wu Yu back to the west with one shot. As I write this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. However, just as Wu Yu was about to be killed, hundreds of ghosts suddenly spewed out from the talisman. Under the influence of Wu Yu's will, Wu Yu only saw countless black smoke, engulfing Zhang Ding. The ears were filled with the sharp sound of howling ghosts and howling wolves. It was extremely miserable. Zhang Ding let out several violent roars. Even the being with perfect energy could not quickly get out of the lethality of this talisman. It can be seen that Wu Yu killed Zhang Junlin. What a right decision. In fact, he was directly forced out when the danger was extremely extreme. Walk. This is a great opportunity. Zhang Junlin was killed, Zhang Ding was entangled by the 100 ghost devouring talisman, and only 2 ghosts, Lei Mingniao and Shihei, were left. Wu Yu could only hope that Elder Shentu could seize this golden opportunity. That opportunity came too quickly, and it was completely different from Elder Shentu's original plan to kidnap Zhang Junlin, but it was still an opportunity. Whoosh! Fortunately, Elder Shentu seized this opportunity. His demon fishing pole stretched out several fishing lines at once and entangled all 7 disciples including Wan Tianyuxiu, as if he had caught 7 fish. Elder Shentu used the demon fishing pole to hold everyone together, ready to take the opportunity to break through the siege and escape. However, he still had a fishing line, coming towards Wu Yu. Until this moment, he had not given up on Wu Yu. Of course, Wu Yu would not give up hope of survival and try his best to rush over. This short distance is actually nothing. It can be reached in an instant on weekdays, but at this time, it is like a chasm. Seeing that the demon fishing rod was about to wrap around him, Wu Yu suddenly felt light and flew up. Then, a burst of thunder surged through his body, almost electrocuting Wu Yu, leaving him paralyzed and unable to move. Only then did he realize that the great demon Thunderbird had grabbed him with its claws and carried him with him. It took off immediately. After being caught by Lei Mingniao, it was obvious that Elder Shentu could no longer take him away. He opened his tired eyes and looked towards Elder Shentu. Su Yanli, Lan Shuiyu, and the others looked at him with wide eyes, which were heartbreaking. Go, leave me alone. If you don't leave, you will die. Wu Yu used his last bit of strength to roar. It's not that he doesn't want to live, he certainly doesn't want to die, but he doesn't want others to be killed because of him. This is the best opportunity. If Elder Shentu doesn't seize it and tries to save himself who is captured by the Thunder Bird, then everything will be lost. People still have to die. He is not great, but he does not want to owe others his life. As for being caught, he took it as his life. At least, he fought and killed Zhang Junlin. Let's go. Wu Yu's eyes turned red, and he roared at Elder Shentu again, as if he was crazy. Whoosh! Elder Shentu finally left decisively, but this rare opportunity made him burst into tears. Headmaster, it's not that I'm afraid of death. It's that if these 7 disciples want to live, they can only let go of Wu Yu first. As long as the 7 of them are safe, I will definitely come back and fight to death with Wu Yu. Elder Shentu roared into the sky, his voice pitiful. For a moment, my eyes were filled with old tears. There were 7 on one side and 1 on the other. With only this chance, he couldn't waste a moment and could only make this painful choice with hatred. Wu Yu. Su Yanli was tied to the fishing line. As Elder Shentu left at high speed, he kept hitting the bushes and was covered with mud and leaves. However, her eyes were still on Wu Yu. Until the thundering bird held Wu Yu between its legs, soared into the sky and disappeared before her eyes. At that moment, it was heartbreaking. Is missing this moment a farewell forever? She couldn't accept that Wu Yu used his life to create an opportunity for them to leave. Elder Shentu, put me down. I'm going to accompany Wu Yu and fight them to the death. Beside him, Lan Shuiya cried. Shut up, you can only die. He managed to do this with great difficulty, but you still live up to his wishes and die, Lan Liulai said in panic. As sword cultivators, we can't let him go. If Master knows that we actually abandoned our junior brother and ran for our own lives, why would I, Wan Tianyugzio, practice? Elder Shentu, let me go. At this time, Wan Tianyugzio did a decision was made. You are ignorant, naive, and seeking death, Lan Liulai glared at him. Stop making noise. Su Yanli's eyes were red, her delicate body was trembling slightly, and she glared at them. Time is still, there are only leaves passing by. That's right, stop arguing. We are not out of danger yet. Besides, Wu Yu's fate is so great, he will definitely not die, Yi Qingfeng whispered from the side. Go to hell, Lan Shuiyu spat directly, leaving Yi Qingfeng stunned, not knowing what he said wrong. Everyone was confused and had their own thoughts, but it was Elder Shentu who made the decision. He had a heavy responsibility and would definitely not leave any of them behind. We haven't escaped the danger yet, Lan Liulai pointed, and everyone could clearly see that there was a huge shadow approaching on the ground. Behind him, there was a large area of darkness, ghosts loomed, and a terrifying yin qi was approaching. There seemed to be constant cries of ghosts coming from all around. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. Those 2 ghost cultivators have been chasing us. Also provide a guide for those behind. Zhao Changtian's face turned pale and he thought. Boom boom boom. Everyone looked back and saw that deep in the woods, there was a horse riding on flames, running at high speed through the woods. The person sitting on the horse's back was the extremely ferocious Zhang Ding. Zhang Junlin is dead. He has a heavy responsibility this time. If he lets them escape, he will have no shame in going back to see Zhang Xie. Crackling. There were bursts of thunder in the sky, and it was obvious that the Thunderbird still existed, approximately where Zhang Ding was. It's over, they're all catching up, Yi Qingfeng trembled all over and cried out loud. Gloom, fear, and despair once again enveloped everyone. There are 4 of them, and here only Elder Shentu, Wan Tianyugzio, and Lan Liulai can barely fight against the enemy, but they are definitely not their opponents. We will definitely be caught up. Zhao Changtian muttered in despair. When they were panicking, Su Yanli must have looked up at the sky, through the layers of leaves, and vaguely saw Wu Yu in the claws of the Thunder Bird. Wu Yu looks very weak, but he is definitely not dead. He is still resisting the control of Lei Ming Niao. Junior brother is not dead yet. Su Yanli's trembling voice made everyone feel incredible. Wu Yu killed Zhang Junlin, why didn't the Thunderbird kill him? In fact, this question was very difficult for Wu Yu to understand. The Thunderbird didn't even look at him. No matter how Wu Yu struggled, he only chased Elder Shentu. Lei Ming Niao. Give me Wu Yu, he will kill Junlin. Below, Zhang rides a ghost flame horse, piercing through the forest like a cavalry on the battlefield. However, Thunderbird did not respond to him. Laming Niao. I'm going to use this Wu Yu to force them to stop, Zhang roared, the forest shook, and even Elder Shentu in front heard it. The thundering bird's sharp eyes then fell, staring at Zhang, and said calmly, "This is my trophy, why should I give it to you? If you want it, just catch it yourself." What he said was strange, and everyone present heard it. Elder Shentu also just realized that it turns out that their three-party team is not an iron plate. They are both strong men. It is indeed impossible to achieve a perfect union. There must be many disputes over interests. You. Lei Mingniao, please remember, wait until I finish the previous ones, and then I will settle the score with you, Zhang roared violently, causing the ghost flame horse to roar, and the speed was even faster, and he was chasing with his life. It's up to you, I'm still afraid of you, the Lei Mingniao said indifferently. The chase continued, but Wu Yu stopped struggling. He even took out the black and white Taoist sword and wanted to cut off the Thunderbird's claws, but he didn't expect that he had to put away the black and white Taoist sword. It's completely out of control now. This Thunderbird is stronger than the ghost-faced ape, and it is also a 1,000-year-old monster. It just has not condensed the demon elixir, so it ranks lower than the 9 immortals. Wu Yu had just entered the immortal realm, how could he compare to this old demon? If the other party doesn't kill him, he is already showing mercy. But why didn't he kill himself? He is a small character, why is he going against the furious Zhang for himself? Wu Yu's mind was in a mess. Everything that happened was too sudden. Wu Yu, you are the person our 9 immortals are looking for. Don't worry, I won't kill you or hurt you. However, you'd better be nice, otherwise I will be rude suddenly, that Lei Mingniao said to Wu Yu. The person the 9 immortals are looking for, this sentence completely confused Wu Yu. Fortunately, from these words, it seemed that his life was not in danger for the time being. What does she want from me? That was a 1,000-year-old fox demon with a demon elixir. I had never seen him before. Why was he looking for me? This is strange. Shut your mouth. When Lei Mingniao spoke, another burst of electricity came, making Wu Yu tremble several times. The thunder exploded. In this moment, Wu Yu didn't even have the strength to speak. Since she wants to find me, I should be important to her. We can all be friends. Can you let go of my senior brothers and sisters? Even though he was in severe pain, Wu Yu still asked Lei Mingniao. He could see clearly from above. It was clear that Elder Shentu would eventually be overtaken with so many people. This is impossible. My mission is to deal with them. This time, even if they don't die, they will be captured. Captive. Once they are captured, it will be even worse. Zhang Xie will definitely use them to make Feng Xie surrender and let them be slaughtered. What can I do? The Tongtian sword sect fell into this crisis because it was brought about by itself. Wu Yu fell into deep self-blame. This kind of pursuit, violent and raging, is simply a nightmare. He could clearly see the eyes of the senior brothers and sisters below. They were helpless, hateful, and powerless. Life and death are all controlled by others. Wu Yu was going crazy, trying to find a way. Suddenly, perhaps it was fate, he remembered that he had not returned his Immortal Kingdom supervision order to Feng Shui. Maybe everyone has forgotten it. After all, who cares about the affairs of the mortal fairyland now? However, Feng Shui once left a battle formation diagram on it. As long as the Immortal Kingdom supervision order is broken, he will know. At 1800 hours in the evening, the third update. Sent by QQ official account. Please follow QQ official account, Feng Qingyang. Heaven swallowing record. Author, Feng Qingyang. Chapter 130. Immortal Kingdom Supervision Order. Wu Yu really couldn't remember this thing until this moment of life and death. When Feng Xiai was on it, he spent several days making a formation diagram because he was worried that Wu Yu would be killed in Wudug. Later, Wu Yu returned safely, and everyone may have forgotten about it. But now, Wu Yu remembered it. Although it is not a hopeless situation, it is still a hope in despair. Wu Yu took advantage of the opportunity of the secret confrontation between Lei Mingniao and Zhang Ding to quietly take out the Immortal Kingdom Supervision Order from the Sumuru bag. With his strength, he easily crushed the Immortal Kingdom Supervisory Order. During this process, almost no movement occurred. Besides, there was so much noise during the pursuit, who would have noticed it? Master, I hope you can understand what I mean. After getting it done, all we can do is wait. The 9 immortals are going to protect me. I shouldn't be in danger for my life for the time being, but Elder Shentu and the others must persevere. This is a terrifying pursuit. The vast sky forest was destroyed along the way. They almost opened a path, and many trees continued to collapse. Elder Shentu had strong magical power and escaped with all his might. Although the other party was pursued by 3 waves of forces, he could at least hold on for a while. This is a battle of attrition for endurance. What we look at is the perseverance, magic power, chi condensation techniques, etc. of the powerful immortals. If Wu Yu were at their level, he would obviously be faster because of his high-grade heavenly magic. Old Ghost Shentu, you should save some energy to fight. If you maintain this speed, you can only run for 1 day at most. After 1 day, you will be exhausted on the road without us taking action. Do you still want to go back in 1 day? To the Tongtian Sword Sect. Zhang Ding's control of the Ghost Flame Horse basically does not consume any energy for the time being. The Thunderbird flies, so it's easier. The 2 ghost cultivators seem to have plenty of energy to spare. Your Excellency Shentu, don't waste your time. Why don't you compete openly and openly? Miserable ghostly sounds could be heard from all around. Their words simply put huge pressure on the direct disciples. They all also understand that there is absolutely little hope today. For a moment, almost everyone's face turned pale, and when they looked at each other, they just smiled bitterly. Don't be afraid, I won't let you lose your lives, Elder Shentu roared in a low voice. This old man, riding a fishing rod, tied up everyone and made them fly off the ground. He's still holding on. Hoo ho ho. The heavenly forest was torn apart by him. Ha ha, you sword cultivators like to do this kind of pointless persistence. Zhang Ding's ghost flame horse did not give up the speed at all. This is a descendant of the immortal beast with very precious blood. It is the most precious spiritual beast of Xuanhuan Dao sect. 3 girls are really beautiful. You must let me pamper you before you take them back in the darkness. The honest but ferocious voice of the second Lord Shen surrounded everyone. His words made the atmosphere even more miserable. Everyone knew the virtues of a ghost cultivator. If a woman fell into his hands, she would not be able to live or die. These 7 ghosts of the Red Sea have killed countless people. Sister, Lan Shuiyu looked at Lan Liyulai, the sister she had relied on since childhood, and turned pale with fright. Don't be afraid, Lan Liyulai took a deep breath. I will commit suicide with you. Lan Liyulai added. She has been away all year round and knows the virtues of ghost cultivation. If you fall into their hands, committing suicide is the best option. Wu Yu listened to these conversations. Among this group of people, the one he cared about most was Su Yanli. Facing the threat from Lord Shen Er, she was also a victim, but her expression didn't change much. She just glanced at Wu Yu a few more times, and she must have made a decision in her heart. Sister. Wu Yu couldn't imagine that scene. He closed his eyes and waited for the torturous passage of time. 1 hour, 2 hours. No matter how intimidated and threatened Zhang Ding and the others were, Elder Shentu still moved forward with terrifying resilience. Wu Yu is very lucky that he can do this. If Feng Shui could understand what he meant, he should be fighting with his sword at this time. Once Feng Shui arrives, the situation here will change drastically. Master, you must come. Wu Yu closed his eyes and hoped. Elder Shentu's resilience is really terrifying. Even after a long time, he is still persisting. However, after such a long time, Zhang Ding and Qi Hai are almost the same as them. The Thunderbird didn't seem to be very active, so it didn't reach its maximum speed. Otherwise, Elder Shentu would have been caught up long ago. But at this time, Elder Shentu looked pale. He was old and might not be able to hold on any longer. Elder, stop and fight to the death. Wan Tianyugxiu was the calmest person among them. If you keep running, you will completely lose your fighting ability. Lan Liulai was also prepared. They all looked at Elder Shentu. At this moment, Elder Shentu looked up to the sky and roared. The sound could be described as huge, vast, and extremely sharp. It was impossible to know how far it traveled, and even Wu Yu was deaf-end. Lan Shuiyu and the others were almost deaf-end. You still want to ask for help from the Bibo Mountains? Can your voice reach the Bibo Mountains? Stop teasing me. Zhang Dingson chased after him with a sneer. After shouting, perhaps Elder Shentu had done his best. He suddenly stopped in the middle of the chase, turned around, and protected all his disciples behind him. Among them, Lan Liulai and Wanchen Yugxiu also walked to his left and right sides with swords. They were both at the 8th level of the condensation realm and still had the strength to fight. As for Mo Shishu and the others, they were basically the same as Wu Yu. Facing these opponents, they would definitely be killed in one blow. Finally, it's over. Zhang Ding reined in the ghost flame horse and stopped in front of Elder Shentu. For a while, smoke and dust rolled. Whoosh! Shen Erjun and Qi Yunji, still wearing cloaks, appeared behind Elder Shentu and the others. As for the Thunder Bird, it was already hovering in the sky. The situation is serious. Elder Shentu's eyes were wide open, looking at Shen Erjun and Zhang Ding, and said, I am fighting you two alone. Come here if you dare. He was very majestic and rushed to one side to provoke Zhang Ding and Shen Erjun. For Zhang Ding and his group, the only difficult person among this group of people was Elder Shentu, so they smiled at each other coldly and came towards Elder Shentu. Seventh sister, Lei Mingniao, you should be careful, don't let my three little sisters commit suicide. No problem, second brother, you go and deal with that old immortal first. Qi Yunji chuckled, full of murderous aura, and walked out of hell and walked towards Lan Liulai and the others. I'll kill her, Lan Liulai snorted coldly, holding a blue glass-like long sword, blocking Qi Yunji in front of him. Qi Yunji is the last of the 7 ghosts of the Red Sea. You are only at the 8th level of the condensation realm. If it weren't for the second Lord of God leading you, could you have chased him here? This Qi Yunji is the only one in the 8th level of the condensation realm among the 7 ghosts of the Red Sea, so Lan Liulai is still evenly matched with him. The scary thing is Lei Mingniao. The only one who can intercept Lei Mingniao is Wan Tianyugxiu, who is still okay. You, run. Wan Tianyu Shui knew what Elder Shentu meant. Since you can't save everyone, just hold on to the little one. Su Yanli and the other 5 people. Split up and leave. Su Yanli and the others understood. For a moment, Yi Qingfeng and Zhao Changtian fled towards the gap between the battles without saying a word. Su Yanli, Lan Shuiyu, and Mo Shishu did not leave. They hesitated for a moment, and they couldn't run away alone. At this moment, 2 bowl-sized thunderbolts fell from the sky and hit Zhao Changtian and Yi Qingfeng. Boom! The 2 of them were directly reduced to ashes, and a deep pit was blown out on the ground. Zhao Changtian and Yi Qingfeng died directly. Lan Shuiyu was so scared that she shrank between Su Yanli and the others. If she had rushed out just now, she would probably be shattered to pieces now. It was impossible for them, the younger generation, to escape privately. The laming bird was up there, and it was not a vegetarian. At this time, Lan Liyulai and Qi Yunji started fighting. On the other side, Elder Shentu fought two Qi condensation realm 10th layers alone, and that was a big scene. He pulled out a thin sword from the demon fishing rod, and the sword energy was ferocious, fighting against Guixiu and Zhangding alone. However, even Wu Yu could see that he was only temporarily fierce and could not hold on for much time. Lei Mingniao, don't kill them, otherwise if I crush you one day, I will tear you into pieces. Wu Yu panicked when he saw Zhao Changtian and the others die. If the thunder exploded on Su Yanli's head, she would also be wiped out. You are scaring me, wait until you have this day. At this time, the sword energy of the night sky was crisscrossed, stepping on the tree trunk and rushing into the sky. The extremely domineering sword energy formed a sword net and came violently, flipping the clouds and sword rain. That sword, flipping the clouds and rain. Humph. The thunderbird flapped its wings, and suddenly thousands of thunderbolts fell, easily defeating the sword net and bombarding Wan Tianyushue's body. Snap! Wan Tianyushue's body was charred and fell to the ground. Big brother! However, amid the exclamations of the crowd, Wan Tianyushue climbed up with a sword in his hand, his eyes determined. Even though his body was charred, he still rushed forward again. His will was quite strong. Demons! You are so violent today, but one day, we sword cultivators will cut you into pieces. Swish! The sword light shot up into the sky. Big brother! Wu Yu had just met him, and at this time he was also impressed by his will. No wonder they said that he was the most like Feng Shui Yat. In him, Wu Yu saw the righteousness and persistence of the sword immortal. Sword, straight. Righteous. Forge ahead. Sword cultivators, slay demons and monsters, and uphold justice. All of this is vividly reflected in Feng Shui, Wan Tianyuxiu and others. And Elder Shen too, who would rather die than surrender, fought to the last moment. Sword. Wu Yu fell in love with this way. Of course, he also loved the Tongtian stick in his bones. Sword, justice, protection. Stick, violence, attack and kill. The two complement each other. At this moment, Wan Tianyuxiu and Elder Shen too will die. At that moment, I'm afraid they are all desperate. Only Wu Yu in the sky saw the direction of the green waves and mountains, and a golden sword light was flying. Beidou search.